Amazing guests that we get from Books to Life Marketing. Before we dive into today's exciting interview, I'd like to give a quick shout out again to Books to Life Marketing, the team making it all possible. They specialize in helping authors bring their stories to life through expert publishing, marketing, and media exposure. They're behind some of the most inspiring author journeys we've seen. If you're an author looking to elevate your book, Books to Life Marketing is the partner you want in your corner. And our guest today is Patricia Elliott. Her book is titled The Weight of Emptiness, subtitle Comfort and Hope for the Loss of a Loved One. Before I want to say thanks again, Patricia, for coming on. I want to kind of talk a little bit about who you are and your book. Before we get started, how are you, Patricia?
Very well, and thank you for having me on this afternoon for me.
Yeah, exactly. And so your book is basically yeah, just to know your background a little bit. You're a Scottish-based author. Patricia
Yeah.
Elliott is the founder of Mind Circles with over 20 years experience as a professional speaker and author of academic and professional development books. She promotes well-being and personal growth through resilience and courage using psychology proven techniques like her ABC method, which she is a mentor, coach, and blogger, podcaster, poet, academic examiner, and funeral celebrant. I got to get to that. And she has done stand up comedy. I'm ready to laugh with you today. She's a passionate storyteller and thought leader. She believes in the power of humor and personal experience to inspire change. She holds university degrees in music, law, psychology, education, but she values most is her degree from the University of Life. Amen. That's me too. She
Yes.
has a natural affinity for people and uses her personal life skills, positive attitude, and wide ranging experience to inspire, empower, and motivate her readers for her books. Her writing style is engaging and positive, and she's always sensitive and encouraging. Patricia believes that and knows that sharing is caring and helps healing. Again, thanks a lot for stopping by. Oh my goodness. Before I get to, the book, the questions, I can't believe it. You have a lot of experience in your life. That's
Well,
impressive. And a really good you've had those life experiences, but what's also awesome is that your bio is amazing. How are you?
thank you very much for that lengthy introduction. As one of my Scottish friends once said when I was going to introduce myself, and they asked what I did, and he whispered in a kind of stage whisper in Scottish, "What does she no do?"
But see,
So
the
it's
thing is,
some,
I love these backgrounds, and a lot of it speaks to me. So I like to get my personal experience into the conversations to kind of really delve into a back and forth conversation because my
yeah.
listeners and viewers really enjoy that. And so I'm really excited about this conversation. So, what inspired you to write The Weight of Emptiness, and why the
Well,
title?
Yeah, well, I was inspired by, I suppose, it came from the deepest place in my heart because I can get quite emotional over all of this, obviously, over the loss of my son. And I wanted to write it in honor of him, in honor of his life, but also to preserve his memory and also to share my story with others, sort of just to raise awareness also of suicide. I know it's a topic that people don't want to talk about, but there's a need to talk about it. But more than that, there is a need to have tools to cope as well. So the book kind of encompasses my personal story, it's my personal journey. And it's not a sad book. I bring in humor. Some of it's a bit dark humor as well. But the title, it was a difficult one because my son and I, we're both Piscean, both born February and March. And I like the ocean, we like the sea. And I thought, could it be waves of the sea? And then I put it out to some of my colleagues and students for suggestions for a title. And it was Zena, one of them, came back with The Weight of Emptiness. And I thought, that is fabulous because it's contradictory, because it's a space. So, how can a space be heavy? But actually, it can. So, you can feel this weight on your shoulders. It's a poetic title, but it's also it resonates enough with others, I think, who've lost someone, who've experienced loss. So it's deeply personal to me, and I invite readers into my unique story, sort of reflecting this shared human experience.
And you think about that shared human experience is a great a point is that we all have loss in our
Mm.
lives. And we've gone through that loss. And how do we respond to that? And especially grief of losing somebody when we didn't expect it to happen. And how do we deal with it? This is why people need to read the book, is they have to, especially if they've gone through this or they need to share this with someone who just lost someone, that guess what? It is so difficult. And if you're grieving for weeks or months or years, there's no timeline to this. Sorry.
No, no.
Everyone is different.
And there's no grief doesn't end, it's something that it goes on and on forever, and therefore every day is different. I know my book, I hope, is different. There are lots of books on grief, and they talk about the stages of grief. And the stages, to me, I don't think they're sequential. I think you can have them all mixed up. You can have in 1 hour you can have all of them. I think you can experience, denial, the anger, the what ifs, even the last one, acceptance, doesn't mean that you're accepting the loss, but it's kind of okay that it becomes real to you. And I hope that I kind of just bring in my personal experience. I still experience the grief every day. And when I talk about
Yeah.
it, it can get quite heavy. But then I think, I've got tips and tools that I use so I'm able to talk to people about it. So I would say to people, give yourself permission to grieve. I think it's very important. Some cultures are good at it. I think certainly us with a stiff upper lip, let's not talk about it, let's not do this. I think it's very important to give yourself permission, give yourself space as well. I think you need that alone time. I know lots of people don't like to be alone, but I think you do need that alone time so that you can sob uncontrollably if you want to, with nobody saying, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Because sometimes you can't explain it. It can be a piece of music, it can be something that just you hear something and you hear somebody laugh. I mean, I often think, "Oh, is that my son?" And it's not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got all these things. You've got to look after yourself as well. You don't get over grief. You learn to carry it. You learn to endure with it, even a hopeful way.
And this is a great point you're making it. And I love where you're drawing into this is specifically enough that the book's different than any book when you talk about grief. You put a lot of laugh, but I just don't understand. And Patricia, this is where really the conversation people definitely are not when they know someone that's lost a loved one, especially to suicide, and they don't know how to share. A book like this would be something to escape. The thing that we as human beings, and lots of people are suffering from mental illness, lots of people are suffering, they're upset, they really aren't happy with their lives. And I feel bad for them because I love my life and I want to live it each and every day and breathe it each and every day. And I can't wait till the next day I get up. And I think you could tell that from just
Yeah,
meeting me that I
yeah,
just am full of life. And regardless of what happens, it is an amazing thing. But when we go through these pains, how do we respond? And I think our society thinks it's like scraping your knee or
yeah.
breaking a bone. Oh, you're going to heal. There's a timeline to healing. And some people, because I worked with one of my clients before, and she wrote a book on grieving. And she literally said that we never know when that time is, right?
Yeah.
We never, ever, ever know when that time is for grieving, when it's going to be over. And one person is going to be different than the other person, right?
Yes, yeah.
Does that
We're
make
we're all
sense?
different. Yes, we're all different, and we all experience grief differently. I think, I mean, a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, you're always smiling." Well, yes, I almost in honoring my son's life, I can smile and I can laugh. People feel a bit guilty. I've had people say to me, "Well, I'm guilty. I
Oh,
was laughing and enjoying myself," but why not? You know,
oh,
it's allow yourself to do that because I think it's important that you don't feel guilty about that. You can live on. It's just honoring their life all the time. And my son in fact, you would never have known he'd any problems. I knew as a mother, he maybe went through pain. And I would say to people, they're out of pain now. You know, there are things that you have no control over.
Right.
And if you've no control over that, you need to let that go and let them go in peace.
Let him go in peace. I love that point. Can you share a moment or story about Bruce from the book that feels captures its essence so that people that pick up the book know you seem like an amazing storyteller. So I want to hear one of those.
Well, it's this is a moment I write about it in the book, but one of the things, in fact, I have it here, is a teddy. He
Oh,
had this teddy always, and it's interesting that when I went to his flat after this event, I went with a friend and we were sitting on his bed, and he was sometimes quite a messy person, but he clearly tidied up. I mean, everything was in pristine order, and there were some letters. One for me, which was I was fortunate with that because lots of people don't know why. I mean, it wasn't a reason. He said in his letter, I just felt trapped in another character. It's nobody's fault. That was very emotive for me. That really, uh, it just, it summed him up really. But I then went back the next day, and when I sat on the bed, this teddy was on it. It was not there the day before. I can't explain that, but I felt it was like him saying, take the teddy, and if you ever need a hug from me, hug the teddy. So this teddy's now with me all the time. It kind of sums up how he felt. It blew me away actually, and I can't explain it. And my friend was with me. I said, was that there the day before? She said, no. It just I think there are things we can't explain in life,
no.
and just not to try and explain it. But a really other humorous, if we've got time, I've got
We,
loads of
we we
stories.
we have time. So this is you got me for 30 minutes. That's a big don't worry about it. I'm enjoying
Another
this. Go ahead.
another one's a bit of black humor actually, but I hadn't, no, I'd not arranged any funerals before, although I'm now a funeral celebrant. I know what happens, but I wasn't then. And the funeral, with the lovely funeral undertaker's funeral director, and he phoned me and he said, what would you like Bruce to wear? And I hadn't thought of this at all. And I thought, where? And I thought, oh, right. He said, well, you obviously want him dressed. I thought, right. So he was absolutely fanatic about football, and he loved Manchester United, Man United, Man U. So he had a t-shirt, red t-shirt with the number 7. So I spoke to his brother and sisters. They said, oh, that's ideal. So I took the t-shirt up to the directors and he said, that's lovely, but do you not want him fully dressed? I said, oh, right, okay, forgot about that. So I went into town, and Bruce was very particular about his clothes, not designer, but very specific what he wore. And he was tall and thin. So I thought jeans. So I went into one of the men's shops, and I was telling the assistant about my son, and I was looking for jeans for him. He said, you'd better to bring him in. So I said, well, it'd be a bit difficult because he's dead. I didn't
Oh my
mean to
God.
shock him. I
I know, but you're
apologize.
like, oh my
But,
goodness.
I said, oh, I'm really sorry. But, in a way, it helped me because I think I felt the need to say he was dead.
Oh,
This make it
yeah.
real. So we then got the genes and things, but it was, so I bring these stories in because I think people are loath to talk about some of the things that happen. You know, um, it's it's a difficult one, the t-shirt, the teddy and the letter, they're all in the book, but
Oh,
it kind
yeah.
of sums up Bruce. He was very, very creative like me. I mean, his head was full of things, I
I
can
love it.
compartmentalize things. He couldn't. It was like, oh, he was going 100 miles an hour or very quiet. So we'd this two sides of him.
There's definite two
I'm sitting
sides.
with Teddy just now, so he's with me.
Now, this is such a challenge to ever write a book, especially when you look back at times that were very difficult. What were some of the most difficult parts of writing this book, emotionally or otherwise?
I think when you start writing, because I think journaling is an excellent way of dealing with life. Lots of people don't, and I don't
Hmm.
mean writing War and Peace, But I thought, oh, this will just be like me journaling. But you know, when I
Come on, but
started,
you like to write War and Peace, write about war, like go that deep, right? I could see you.
that's right. I'll put it in some Scottish characters. But I think that there were emotional times when I had to almost be objective when I was writing, because if it got very subjective, I could be sobbing and it was kind of uncontrollable. And then I thought, pull yourself together, we need to get this story out there. Because I do believe sharing is caring and helps healing. And so many people don't talk about it. I mean, I have had friends who've lost their sons as well. And when we talk about it, some people will go to counselling, some people will go to groups. I think one of the things that um, is the word frustration frustrated me. I went to one of the groups and I give talks at some groups, and I feel that they're just talking through their story all the time and not getting tools to help them to move forward. They don't, moving forward doesn't mean you're forgetting. And I think people think by not talking about it, I know that in the aftermath of a death, particularly maybe a sudden one, people are supportive, they're fabulous and they'll come. Some of them don't know what to say, some of them say quite inappropriate things. And I've told others they're not trying to hurt you. Like, well, he had a good innings if it was your grandpa. Or if it was a young child, well, he wasn't in this life long. These are horrible things to say, but they don't mean it. They don't know what to say.
Right.
But I try to introduce the topic by saying it's okay to speak about Bruce. I say his name often, and I think people must say the name of their loved one often. I
Yes.
talk to him, you
So, but
know.
and that's the truth that yeah, you learned how to deal with your grief. You
Yeah,
and there are a lot of people that learn to deal with it. My when I think of my father, and it tears me up all the time. I was talking to Steve Gutenberg. That's another interview you need to check out. My interview with Steve Gutenberg.
yeah,
He wrote a book about a loss too of his father and how he went through the whole cancer stage. And me and Greg Hanna, we shared, and we were almost tearing up when I was talking about my
yeah,
father. My father's my hero,
yeah,
and I've lost him 6 years ago. And I still, at times, but I see a cardinal and say, there's my dad. Or I
yes,
see somebody that he brought into my life and I said, my dad just brought him into my life. And this is how I deal with it. I can put a lot of things in the back and stay focused and attentive and not think about those things. But when I bring it up, like you just told me now,
yeah,
so that's the thing that you're able to do that I love. And how can we help others to do this? This is because this is the key thing about the book that you can say to somebody who did lose that loved one or are dealing with someone who lost a loved one to do it in a way that's going to feel comfortable, right? Not
yes.
not forced.
You
We
have to,
really need
in a
those
way,
tips. Yeah.
yeah, in a way, you have to find your own space and your own time. What I recommend is the not to bottle it up. Even if you're alone and you're living alone, write a wee letter, write their name down, and if they start crying, let yourself cry. I think again, it's back to stiff upper lip. Oh, I better not. This is bringing it all back to me. Well, why not? They lived. Therefore, you need to let that out. I think it's very important. Be gentle with yourself, because I think people tend to, well, there's people will deal with it differently. Some people rush back to work. Now that's fine, but I think that's okay as long as they're not avoiding it, because then you're just delaying the grieving stage. But you're going to have that throughout the rest of your life. Life will never be the same. You're living it and you're enduring it in a different way. I don't like the word victim. I never consider myself as a victim. I consider that if you can build resilience and have courage, you will endure life. I wrote another book after The Weight of Emptiness called Resilience and Courage, because that's what gets you through. And you can learn you can build resilience.
How do you define hope in the context of grief? That's
Sorry.
how do you define hope in the context of grief?
How do I find hope? Um, Hope is knowing that life is awesome. You can lose someone in the blink of an eye, but if you have, I would say faith, but some people, it doesn't have to be religious faith. There are different religions that can help you through. I have seen sometimes that if certain religions, people will not talk. I don't think that's very good. I think they have to be able to talk. But hope comes from, you feel when you start feeling comforted, and you see others enduring in a different way. Um, I think everyone can do it. That is, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And until the day you die, when you're maybe reunited with them, hope is, you can't let go of hope.
Right. You can't let go. I totally see this. And the problem is we sometimes we're not able to figure that out.
Yes, but grief is valid, and I think the love you've had is eternal. That love never goes away. Although I've lost my son, I love him to bits. He's still there, and therefore I can write him a wee note, or if you do have something in the house that can remind you of them, hold them. I've got my wee teddy, so I think that all these things, and even in the weight of that emptiness, there's still room for hope.
Okay. What do you say to someone who feels like they'll never heal from their loss? And I think this can go towards not just the loss of a loved one, but any type of loss, a
Yes.
relationship loss, a job loss, disappointment beyond belief that no one can
Yeah,
deal with.
right. I'd be a wee bit brutal. I'd perhaps say ditch the word never. Because sometimes if I say to people, can we do this? Oh, I can't. I'll say ditch the word can't. So you need to get rid of the negativity. And I designed my ABC, which is in the book. I think I've got that in the book. I tend to talk about it a lot. A is for affirmations. And you can turn negative to positives by very quickly by just saying, I feel good, I am calm. It doesn't need to be something long. And it just changes your mindset. So you can actually, I mean, there's research on this shows that as soon as you use words like never, can't, you're bringing yourself down. You need to turn that around with short sentences. I feel good. I am calm. I am hopeful, any of these words at all. And your B is for breathing. Breathing's from the diaphragm. If anybody does yoga and drama, these kind of things. I mean, to be fair, my son actually gave me a lot of tips. The sad thing was, which happens to a lot of me, he didn't use them all the time. People say, oh, these are too easy, these tips. We all breathe, I suggest, but do you do the effective breathing, from the diaphragm, hold for the count of three, say, and exhale. And C, now it could have been V because it's like a visualization, but ABV didn't sound very good. I thought make it ABC. And the C is for using your creative imagination. And the number of people that have said to me, they dismiss, I'm not creative. I'm not talking about painting and being a Michelangelo. I'm talking about go out into nature, just walk in nature.
Yeah.
That's creation. That puts a different perspective on everything. And I do my ABC regularly. That's what's hard about it, doing it regularly till it becomes your good habit. So that my message to people, they say, I'll never go over this. I say, well, I'm sorry, ditch the never and start thinking positively because you're not honoring your loved one if you're going down into the black rabbit hole.
You're not. And you want to be able to grow from
Yeah,
this.
yes,
Because if you don't grow, we have to grow our whole lives till
yeah,
the time we go off this earth. And if we can grow throughout that process, life is going to be exciting. I love the fact that you talk about creativity. Okay. Because here's the thing, I've had some difficult clients with my agency and when I've tutored. But what I've always done when I had a tutoring business as well, what I've always done is try to learn something new
yes,
from the experience, regardless if it's good or bad. And then also, how can I make this worthwhile? It could be just an awful sales call. It could be an awful experience in the day. But how did I learn from this? Napoleon Hill talks about there's a seed of benefit from anything that's happened in our lives, and if
Yes,
we can look at that in a different way, everything that we experience can be extremely an interesting life. Like,
yes.
what are your
And
thoughts on that? And
well,
I
I
think that,
think I'm similar. I say to people, what I've learned, I've got my greatest strengths from my greatest challenges. Don't see challenges as obstacles, as something adverse. You've got to see them as opportunities to learn and grow. If you're not doing that, I mean, I like you, I mentor other people, and I remember nothing, it was to do with a loss of a job, actually. Two people lost a job, and it was interesting. I looked at their different attitudes. One, life was over. And she was saying to me, I can't get any other job. I'm going for interviews. I said, have you ever thought to me, you've got an energy and an aura about you. I mean, if you immediately go, I immediately drop my energy and, oh, nobody wants to hire somebody that's like that. The other girl saw it as an opportunity to grow, and she was getting job offers. And the other girl couldn't understand it. And I said, it's the way you're approaching it,
yep,
you know. And I think if you've got that, pull yourself up, dust yourself down, as they say, and have that kind of positive straighten your back. I do Motivational Mondays as a short YouTube video, and I've shortened them because people don't have time. So I thought just teach them tips on how to be resilient, right? Let's just back against the chair, see yourself as somebody positive, and you feel good. You have to,
right.
well, I mean, I was
Yeah,
nervous coming into this interview. People are. So you've got to write, I'm going to be the best I can,
you're
relax.
very good. You're great. And it was, and it's a conversation. I'm unlike any other interviewer, aren't I? The way I operate.
Well, I mean, I want to resonate and be relatable to people because sometimes people can be a bit frightened if you've got, I just like studying. So if I've got lots of degrees, people can be frightened of that. I said, no, I just liked studying. But what I've experienced is this university of life. I think everybody should share their experiences, whether they're good or bad. We all learn from them. And, just talking. And if you haven't got, if you've got something to think about at night and there's no one there to talk to, then write it down.
Yeah.
Have your diary, put that in the diary. It can even be this was a bad day and tomorrow it could be a good day.
Mhm. And it depends on whatever religious experience or people that are spiritual people, they really have a better outlook in life. And it,
Yeah.
it has to be something that's positive. You could have you could just be mindset. I'm all about positive mindset, and I know I'm going to be successful if I take everything in this term. Then there could be the law of attraction. Then there could be religious of faith. There's a world after this. Wherever your thought process is, that is going to be the best way to get through it. I mean, I get sad every day, Patricia, when I see people who basically don't love life.
No, and I think sometimes we're pushed towards we need to earn more money, and we need money to live. There's no doubt about it. But don't focus just on that because that's not going to bring you happiness, you
No,
know? So,
what's going to make you happiness is fulfillment. You need to have enough certain amount of money, but fulfillment. Or if you feel that you've been called to this thing and you're not going to be chasing the money, you're not chasing anything. You just know this is why
yeah,
you're here.
yes.
This is
And I think
what, and
yeah, I think in the terms of grief too, don't rush your healing. I mean, people sometimes friends or well, people you maybe don't know so well will say, are you not over this yet? But you don't get over it. Don't rush anything. You've got a lifetime as long as you try and remain positive and, have the courage to move forward, still keeping in mind the love of your loved one.
right. So where's the best place people can find your books and
Oh,
purchase?
well. They are on Amazon, but if they want a signed copy, and I'm perfectly happy if people give me the name of their loved one, because I will put that in the signature, but on my website, mindcircles.co.uk, It's really good.
And is your hope really for people to reading this book, what do you want your readers to get the most out of this and why they should share it with other people that have lost someone?
Right. What I want them to get out of this is that there is hope beyond any devastating loss that you have. There is hope. And if they practice the tips and tools, that would give them a basis for building resilience. So I would love them to uh, know that they're not alone as well. I think it's important that because you can sit, although even if you've got a partner, you can be sitting there and feel you're alone. And I think you maybe need to lift the book and say, right, because I share the stories from others as well. And I think that's important because it's therapeutic. They found it therapeutic. I found writing my book therapeutic. So, and if they start writing about their own loved one, write them wee notes, anything. I still love you, whatever, and it really gives you that feeling that they're still with you, because I
Okay.
do believe that your loved one is still with you. He's sitting on my shoulder just now saying, stop talking.
Well, thank you so much, Trisha. This was wonderful. Thanks again. All
No.
right. That was a special simulcast. So you're listening and watching.